Imagine looking into a mirror and seeing nothing. You are there, physically present, but your reflection simply does not show. Now imagine this happens every time you try to take a photo. You're in the frame, but when you look at the image, you're missing. This is the story of a woman who lived this strange reality. She never appeared in mirrors or photos, even when standing right in front of them. What could explain this phenomenon? Was it something supernatural, a curse, or just a trick of the mind? Before we dive deeper into this unbelievable story, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. That way, you won't miss any of our mystery-filled and suspenseful stories. And if you've ever experienced something unexplainable, share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear about it. The protagonist of this story is Julia, a 34-year-old woman who lived a completely normal life until she discovered something absolutely extraordinary. She didn't appear in mirrors. It all started one ordinary morning. Julia was at home, getting ready for work, when she noticed something strange while looking into her bathroom mirror. Or rather, she noticed that she wasn't there. She blinked, rubbed her eyes, but the result was the same. Her reflection was gone. The mirror showed the bathroom behind her, but not Julia. Terrified, she rushed to the hallway mirror, thinking it might be a flaw in the bathroom glass. But to her horror, the same thing happened. Julia wasn't reflected. She screamed for her husband, Carlos, who was in the living room. When he came, Julia, shaking, asked him to stand in front of the mirror. Carlos did as she asked, and there he was, perfectly reflected. But when Julia joined him, something very strange happened. While Carlos appeared normally, Julia simply wasn't there. The couple panicked. How was this possible? Could it be a problem with Julia's eyesight? They decided to take a picture to see if the issue repeated. Carlos grabbed his phone and took a photo of the two of them. When they looked at the result, the shock hit them again. Only Carlos appeared in the image. Julia, standing right next to him, was nowhere to be seen. From that moment on, Julia's life became a nightmare. No matter the mirror or camera they used, the result was always the same. Julia never appeared. They tried taking photos in different locations with different devices, but nothing changed. Her absence began to deeply disturb her. What was happening? Why was she the only one affected by this bizarre phenomenon? In search of a rational explanation, Julia consulted doctors, psychologists, and even physicists, but no one could understand what was happening. There was no illness or physical condition that could explain her invisibility in mirrors and photos. By all accounts, Julia was a perfectly healthy, normal woman. But the reality told a different story. The situation started affecting her social and professional life. Julia, who had always been outgoing, began to withdraw. She avoided public outings, afraid that others would notice what was happening. At work, her colleagues began asking questions when they realized she never appeared in group photos. Once, during a team meeting, a coworker took a selfie with everyone present. When they looked at the picture, Julia wasn't there, even though everyone could see her clearly, sitting beside them in the room. Over time, her absence from reflections and photos became more than just an inconvenience. It became a threat to her sanity. Julia began questioning her own existence. How could she live in a world where her very presence seemed to be denied by mirrors and cameras? She started having anxiety attacks, questioning reality itself. Carlos, desperate to help his wife, sought alternative explanations. He reached out to paranormal and occult experts, hoping to find answers. The occult specialists they spoke with suggested that Julia might be under an ancient curse, something that was distorting her presence in the physical world. One expert mentioned old stories about people who, for unknown reasons, lost the ability to be reflected, as if their souls had somehow been separated from their bodies. For Julia, this explanation sounded both absurd and terrifying, but with no other answers, she began to wonder if it could be true. The couple tried several rituals suggested by the experts, but nothing worked. Every new attempt to solve the problem ended in frustration. Julia's life became a never-ending search for answers. And as the days passed, she felt increasingly disconnected from reality. Her friends and family started to avoid her, believing she had become obsessed with something that simply didn't make sense. But for Julia, this mystery consumed her every thought. One day, Carlos suggested that maybe they should try to ignore the problem. If there was no solution, perhaps the best thing would be to accept it. But Julia couldn't do that. How could she accept something so absurd? How could she live a life where she couldn't see herself or be seen in any image? Eventually, Julia started avoiding mirrors and cameras altogether. She removed all the mirrors from their home and asked Carlos to stop taking pictures. However, the mystery continued to haunt her. In her dreams, she would find herself standing in front of a mirror, desperately searching for her reflection, but all she saw was an endless void. And in her most intense nightmares, that void seemed to want to consume her, as if her very existence was fading away. Then one day, something even stranger happened. Julia and Carlos were in an antique shop when Julia noticed an old mirror, framed in gold and worn by time. As she approached it, she felt a chill run down her spine. There was something different about that mirror. Cautiously, she looked into it. To her surprise, there she was, reflected. For the first time in months, Julia could see her own image. Carlos, baffled, joined her. The two stood there, speechless, unsure of what to think. The mirror seemed to break the curse. They decided to buy the mirror and take it home. Over the following days, Julia felt relief every time she looked into it and saw her reflection. But at the same time, something didn't feel right. Each time she looked, she sensed there was something more in the mirror. A presence, a shadow that she couldn't quite identify. It was as if the mirror was looking back at her. And gradually, that feeling began to take over her mind. As time went on, Julia realized that while she could see herself in the antique mirror, something in her life was changing. Small details started to disappear around her. Objects, memories, even people. Everything began to fade, as if the mirror was absorbing more than just her reflection. Today, Julia's whereabouts are unknown. The old mirror, which seemed to be her salvation, disappeared from their home along with her. Carlos, devastated, never found answers about what happened. All that remains of this story is a mystery. A woman who never appeared in mirrors or photos, and a mirror that, for some reason, seemed to hold more than just a simple reflection. And you, what do you think happened to Julia? Share your theory in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more mystery-filled and suspenseful stories. Share this video with your friends. Maybe someone has a theory about what really happened to the woman who vanished from mirrors.